Tonight on the Black Channel, as promised, it is time to get things rolling. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. The only historically black college, university, technical vocational school of higher education and learning in the cosmos, for a reason. And we're glad that you're all here to join us. This is the Black Channel. I am the Black Authority, and you are listening live. And I just want to get straight off into it here tonight. So for a while, I've been wanting to do another truck driver's workshop here because I've had so many questions about that before. I may open up the phone lines here a little bit later, but definitely this is something I've been wanting to do here for a minute. So I did promise you all we were going to get back around to that. So without further ado here, let me go ahead and bring into the forum here, Mr. Coleman. Welcome to the Black Channel.
Yes, sir.
He has done us the gracious charity here of giving us some of his time here. So while we go ahead and get started here, why don't you go ahead and let everyone know a little bit about yourself, what you do in the industry, how long you've been in it, and some of your experience with it.
Got you. Okay, I appreciate you for having me on your broadcast, Mr. Black. Long-time listener. I think it's been like over 10 years. I've been listening to you, but I got into the trucking industry in 2005. I used to be in the music industry, doing, hip hop music and stuff like that. And once I got out of that industry and I saw, the money really wasn't where it was at as far as, making a living so I could support myself and my son and my family. I had a family member that was a truck driver, and I never even thought about truck driving. I never even looked at it or had a thought in my mind about it. But he showed me some of his checks. His checks were pretty good. He was a company driver. So I said, okay, I'll check it out. And I knew that it would be the quickest way for me to get to 5 to 6 figures within 1 or 2 months without going to school, without spending a lot of too much more money on going to college or community college, things like that. I could get to 5 to 6 figures really fast, and I could own my business and build it. So I said, let me try truck driving. So in 2005, I went to a school up in Salt Lake City, Utah, called CR England. They train you 4 weeks. You stay at their location. They'll train you for 4 weeks. You get your CDL. They send you over the road with a trainer. So I did that. I went over the road. I did regional. I've done local. And when I got into the game, my whole game plan was to get into the game, learn the business so I can try to get my own. So that's eventually what I did. I started my own company. I got my own authority, my DOT number, my MC authority. Got my first truck. I drove that for maybe 6 months. And then I put a driver in that, and I used that one, and I got me a second one. And that's where I'm at right now. 2 trucks, 2 drivers. Been in the game about 15, 16 years now.
Okay, let's go ahead and go over a few of the basics here now. When you say, I want to decipher some of the jargon here. So when you say my own authority, what does that mean in the commercial trucking business when a driver says, I have my own authority?
Okay. When you have your own authority, that means you have a truck, you have a business, and you can go out there and solicit other businesses to do business with you. So I can go out there to these companies and say, hey, I want to take your load. This is what you're paying, and I'll take it there. So they want to see your insurance and they want to see your authority. Your authority means you signed up with the FMCSA, which is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association, because it's all federally regulated by the government. So your authority is basically saying you've registered with the government. You have all your paperwork together. You have your insurance. Everything has been lined up and in line. So now you can go out there and solicit business and move people's freight state to state, across state lines, and do it legally.
Okay, legally as opposed to trying to do it some other way there. So let's just deal with that real quick here. What are some of the impediments or problems that you could run into if you attempt to do this kind of thing without having your ducks lined up and having your authority?
You can go broke, but you can definitely get in a lot of trouble. You can get fines, you can get tickets. And what it is you really won't be able to do it without your own authority, because when you go on these things called the load boards, that's where all the bigger companies and all the shippers will post their freight that they want to have moved. You can go on that load board and you can pick out a load and say, hey, okay, this load is going from Texas to Georgia. I want to call them, let them know that I have my insurance, I have my authority, I have, which is basically permission to run loads. They'll check it because it's all registered with the federal government. So that shipper has the ability to go online and check and see, okay, Sean Coleman has his company, he has his DOT number, and he has his insurance. So yeah, I can let him take my load. Without that authority, you can't move or do anything because it's all in a system.
Okay, so they actually have the ability to check that. So that's
Yes,
not something you can falsify. Basically, have the ability to check that. Okay, let's go ahead and ask you about something else here. As far as getting your trucks here, let me find out. I know it's been 15 years or so here, but when you got your first truck here, about how much were they costing you then?
When I got my first truck back in 2010. I did a lease purchase program where basically I put 5,000 down. They gave me a weekly note, and then I signed on to a bigger company. I signed on with FedEx, and there was another company called Triple Crown. So I didn't have my authority at that time. So I went and got my truck, and then I leased on to the bigger companies and ran under their insurance and ran under their authority so I could learn the game and learn the business. But back in 2010, my first truck was an International. It was an older truck. It was like a 2005 or 6 International. So the guy, he gave me a deal loan. I think he wanted like 40,000 for it. So I gave him 5,000 down. We did an agreement, and I was paying a weekly note, but that didn't last. That lasted about a year, and things didn't go well because I didn't do all my research, so that went kind of bad.
Okay, when you say you didn't do all your research, what exactly are you referring to?
As far as rates, as far as maintenance on the truck, as far as PMs, as far as DOT. Back then, you could still run paper logs. So I got into a lot of trouble with the bigger company that I signed on to because I was running under their authority. So they're very strict. You got to have your PMs every 3 months, and a PM is a preventative maintenance. So you got to take your truck in and get it inspected, make sure your tires are good, make sure your brakes are good, everything like that. So they had stipulations that you had to abide by in order to take your truck and run under their name and get loads. So I didn't do all my research, so I wasn't ready for all the cost associated with the truck.
Okay. I'm going to get to a couple other things here in a moment, but I want to just do my due diligence where this is involved. And by the way, if you all like tonight's program here, give me a thumbs up in the chat room and definitely hit the likes for me. Otherwise, I'm going to think you all don't like it, and I'm going to end things early here in a minute. Let me find out a couple of things, though, with due diligence. Whenever I get asked by somebody about getting into the business and whatnot, one of the first things I tell them, of course, you want to get your CDL. I always advise them to get all their endorsements if possible, but as many of them as they can, just at the very beginning there. That's the first thing I try to advise them to do, because in my experience dealing with truck drivers, if they don't get it at the beginning, they're never going to get them. Whenever they start, they're just going to start there, and then they're going to be doing so much running, they'll never go back and get their other endorsements. So they kind of just looking at those on the outside, looking in, and be like, man, if I had the time. So I really encourage them to do it early on as opposed to waiting, because in my experience, they never go back and get any additional endorsements. Whatever they got is what they got, and they just try to make it do what it do. Do you agree with that assessment?
I totally 100% agree. They told me that in school when I went to school for my license. They said, get all your endorsements now, because when you get out there, you're not going to want to go back and get it. You're going to be complacent. And when you get your endorsements, it takes your pay grade, your pay rate way up. Like me, I have my doubles, my triples, my tankers, and my hazmat. I can do flatbed, all that. So yeah, you're definitely right.
Okay. next order of business here. Obviously, once you have the truck and everything, when do you deal? What has been your experience dealing with brokers?
Dealing with brokers is you gotta let them know you about the business. You know, you gotta let them know, look, this is my truck, this is what I'm running, this is what I need to be profitable. If you can't do that, then okay, maybe we can do something another time. I won't run that load. But you can't let them run you, because they'll try to lowball you as much as they can, because they get paid off of that load. So they're trying to get you to run it for as little as possible so they can take their cut off the top. So it's better to deal with direct. I try to deal with direct shippers.
Okay. I want to come back to that because everybody's going to want to know some more details about that, especially guys who are just starting out. But let me start from there. First of all, you got a fellow who's new in the business or whatever, but he's looking at trying to be an owner operator. So ultimately, that's what he wants to do. Well, let's just say we're dealing with a guy. He's finished doing, his bridging or side by side. He's finished doing that. So now they're ready to start letting him drive on his own. So he's going to start doing that. In your experience here, how long do you think it's going to be before he actually starts making because everybody wants to start out making $80,000, $90,000 a year, but how long do you think it's going to be before he actually starts making what he's thinking, or at least envisioning he was going to be making when he comes in? Because I usually advise them, the miles are going to matter more than anything else, because you need the experience, because that's what allows you to go from one company to another is experience, not so much what you've been hauling or whatever, but how much time you've done it. That typically speaking, that's what they're really going to be looking at, is how much time you've been out there, how many miles have you done, do you have a bunch of accidents in those miles, or have you been running good, clean miles without a bunch of drama going on? So that's usually the way you're able to get your rates up and everything in that regard. Is that accurate in your opinion?
Yes, sir. Yep, it definitely is. When you're still driving for a company before you get your own thing, a lot of the companies want to know how much experience you got, because a lot of guys, I don't know what it is, but they don't want to go over the road. I looked at it as an opportunity to build and to see the whole country. I saw the whole country. I've been over in every state. So I used that time when I was still with the company, and I went OTR, which means over the road. I lived in my truck. I saved all my money, and I saw all the states, and I got all that experience, because you can't get experience trying to be local. A lot of guys want to be local so they can come home every day, but you don't get the experience of being on that road, driving through the mountains, driving through snow, driving through rain, up and down hills. So you have to get your experience. That's how you're going to get your pay grade up.
Okay, and I think that's an important thing right there, what you just mentioned, our guys want to stay local. Whenever I'm talking to fellas, that's always been a big issue. Everybody wants to be home every night, apparently, is the situation. And I've been dealing with that for well over a decade and a half. You get paid by the wheels turning, but there's a number of dudes out there who are just trying to figure out how to be home every night. I don't think the business is conducive to that anymore. I don't think the business has been conducive to that for about 20, 25 years now, truth be told, as far as getting max pay. But let's go ahead and deal with that now. How many fellas are going to be able to really get, $2 an hour or more trying to stay local?
Not many. The game now that a lot of the companies are doing, when let's say you get a local position, they're lowballing you now. They're going to keep that around $1,200 a week. So they've got it mapped out to where your miles or the hourly pay is going to keep you at $1,200 a week if you're trying to stay local, because they know everybody wants to stay local. And a lot of guys are coming out of school and they're not even going over the road. They're staying local. Yep.
I mean, but you're not really going to make any money like that necessarily. No. The only guys I know who are making money like that, they've been with the companies for a long time. So I guess from a seniority perspective, they've been with the company that long. But for a new driver, I think that's going to be very handicapping. I know a couple of fellas, they live in major cities. And when I was talking to him, I'm like, okay, he's telling me that he's not making the amount of money I said he was going to be making. So I'm like, okay, I know my advice is not faulty. So then I ask him, okay, how many miles did you drive?
Right.
When you pick up a load? He's going to tell me 200 miles. Yeah, well, you and I both know if he says 200 miles, he's trying to go, you're going to basically go 4 hours away. So that tells me right there, you trying to do an 8-hour work day is what you're trying to do. He wants to go out 4 hours and he wants to come back 4 hours. So you're basically trying to go as far as you can, but basically you trying to stay local is what you're trying to do. And there's just not going to be money in that anymore like that. You can try that and keep trying to rig it, but the money's just not going to be there. I think really the money now is just going to be basically made on how far you can roll.
Yeah, it is. I tell a lot of guys, once I got in the game in 2005, I was doing 11, 12-hour days for the next 10 years. So, you're not going to do an 8-hour day or a 7-hour day. No, when you're over that road, you're running your whole, because you can drive 11 hours. You can be on duty for 14 hours in one day. Then you got to shut down for 10 hours. So I would get in that truck. I would get me a lunch, give me some water, and I would drive. Only time I would stop is use the bathroom, and I would get back driving. I would drive my whole 11 hours. That's how you're going to make the money. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, definitely if you got an idea that this is going to be a modified taxi cab or something, that's not going to be the case. That's really going to be important to have that. So next order of business here. Now remind me again here, what was the first truck you bought?
The first truck I bought was an International. I think it was like a 2009 Raggedy International.
Okay, that's the thing I wanted to ask you about here. So let's go ahead and tackle this question here. Lease to own, or whatever the other label is they want to give it there. So we got a company vehicle and they want to sell it to you basically, or finance it to you. Mm-hmm. I've always advised dudes to stay away from that with a 10-foot pole. I've advised them, do not do that. If they're trying to lease one to you, so for you to own it and stuff, is usually going to be one that's ragged out. You don't really have a clear idea of what its service history is. You don't know what it is. And in my opinion, a company is not going to sell you a good vehicle. That doesn't really make sense for them. They're going to sell you one that's off in their ass pocket is what they're going to be doing. Yeah. Typically, that's been my experience. And then when they sign these deals and whatnot to finance it, usually the rates are very bad. It extends much more than it's more than the value of the vehicle is. And more often than not, the first breakdown they have is going to financially put them behind the 8 ball. That's been the typical thing I've experienced or that I've seen. However, you're in the business. You tell me, is that usually what happens, or is it kind of something you can navigate?
No, you're exactly correct. Lease purchase, when you lease purchase from a company, is the worst thing to do. What the companies do, they're set up. I used to have a dealer's license back in Georgia, so I would go to the dealerships and get cars and then resell them and things like that. But the truck companies basically do that. The bigger companies, they'll buy them trucks brand new. So they'll get a 2020 truck and then they'll run it for maybe 2, maybe 3 years. And then those are the ones that they'll hand off to you, because that's when the warranty is gone. That's when it's going to start, needing maintenance and breakdown and things like that. So they'll lease that truck to you for double what it is, double the cost of the truck. And then they'll run you like you're just basically working for them. So you'll think you have your own truck, but you're basically working and running for them, because you're coming into the game with not a nest egg of money or anything for like breakdown, maintenance, things like that. So it keeps you in a perpetual cycle of working for them. So you have to come in at least with a little bit of money and your credit in order. That way you can go get your own and then come to them with your own.
And that's what you recommend to do then?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what I did with the 2 that I have now. I went to truck lots and bought those.
Okay. And did you finance through the dealership, or did you get your own financing?
I financed through my credit union. So
okay.
My credit was pretty decent. I knew before I got in the game, I was always trying to, straighten my credit out, educate myself on my personal credit. And I had a little money saved up when I was running over the road and saving my money. I had money, set aside. I had, good credit. So I put a nice little piece of change down on my first one. And I ran that for about the first 6 months, stacked some more money and stacked some more paper. And that's when I put the driver in it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and deal with that real quick here then. Typically speaking, when I talk to dudes, because I've been in the business of having to lease vehicles, nothing like an 18-wheeler, but certainly I know how you can get behind the 8 ball of that. So with a truck like that, new, you're looking at what, $80,000, $100,000, depending on how equipped it is. You had one that was used when you bought it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Typically speaking, I tell dudes, look, you need to have, I've met a lot of guys who are basically trying to figure out how they can get in the truck, and, they're kind of trying to skimp on the cost of it. So they don't have any money really to put down on it, which always amazes me. I always advise them, in my world, you really need to have $20,000, $30,000 in the bank before you start trying to think about getting your own truck, because after you've gotten the vehicle, you're immediately going to start running into costs on that vehicle immediately. And typically speaking, if I had my druthers, I'd be like, I don't think you should do this unless you got $50,000 in the bank, especially if you're going to get a used one, because you and I both know how they run. A brake job on one of those monsters will run you $2,500.
Tires.
Yeah, and now you're in charge of all that. You're liable for all that. You can't call the company and they send out a hot shot to come fix your one. You have to take care of all this yourself. And being somewhere in the middle of Minnesota and have a flat tire is that's going to be your baby to take care of in that situation.
Facts.
This can get very expensive very quickly, and there are always costs, and you're going to find out how much being a truck owner operator costs after you buy the truck. There's no way you're going to find out before. You're going to find out how much this costs after you've got it. So I typically advise them, if they really need to have in the bank, whatever the purchase price of the vehicle is, I advise them to have at least half that amount in the bank. Not necessarily that you spent it, but that definitely you need to have that in the bank in case something goes wrong, because something is going to go wrong. Now, no ifs, ands, or maybes, it will occur. Do you consider that to be bad advice, excessive advice? We could do better.
That's right on the point. That's right on the money. I wish I would have did that when I got my first truck, when I leased on under a bigger company. That was before I had my authority. But I wish I would have did that, because that's what took me out the game, is breakdown and fuel and tires, things like that. So that was even before I even got my own authority, that I didn't have enough money in the bank set aside to know about all the costs that I'm going to incur, just even before I signed on to the bigger company to get to run their loads. That is correct. Yep.
And like I say, because folks don't have any idea, just things that you would consider to be basic, because you're dealing with an engine now that doesn't even have spark plugs on it. Now it's got something different in that regard. There's nothing cheap about those things. There's nothing cheap about it. So having to run your own gets very expensive very quickly. So now you're in a situation there. About how long, in your opinion, how long would you recommend somebody sign a finance for? About how long, how many years would you recommend? And how many years would you say, hey, you're financing it for too long? For example, with the passenger car, I can understand somebody financing for 5 years.
Yes,
maybe if the vehicle costs $100,000, maybe you could twist my arm and I say 7. But this would have to be a vehicle that I know is going to retain its value over an extended period of time. So we're talking about something like a Bentley or something. If you're signing a 10-year note for a passenger car, I'm going to be like, you can't afford this thing. Either that or it better be a Lamborghini or something. But most likely, if you're signing a 10-year note, you can't afford that. That's basically like a mini mortgage. So in the truck business, in your opinion, how long would you consider to be too long to finance a vehicle, too long of a note?
Too long of a note would be like if you're getting a brand new truck, you're the first one in it, I say 7 years. And then I would even try to knock that down as much as I can. So throw as much money at it as you can to get from up under to go ahead and get it paid off. If you do anything over 7 years, even if it's a brand new truck, that's too long. Like my trucks that I have now, I have a 2015 and a 2016, both Freightliner Cascadias. One of them I bought from Ryder. I financed that one for 4 years, and I'm trying to knock it out in 3. And my second one I bought from OTR Leasing. That one is a note for 5 years, but I'm trying to knock that one out in 4. But these are trucks that have low mileage on them, so I haven't really been having too many problems except for just a minor little maintenance on them. But nowadays, with there's like a truck, there's a chip shortage. So nowadays, just to get a brand new truck, you got to be on a wait list for like a year, because they're giving all of those brand new trucks to the bigger companies. They're not giving them to the small guys. So you gotta go to a lot and buy you a used truck. Something that's pretty decent, good running condition. Take your mechanic with it, with you to check it out. But I say no longer than 7 to 6 years tops.
And that's kind of crazy right there, because that's something we don't really discuss here. Is the the chip shortage and supply chain shortages are affecting everything from airplanes to boats to cars to 18 wheelers.
Yes.
And you're dealing with a much more sophisticated machine than an 18 wheeler that requires a lot more stuff on it. Hell, just siding and whatnot. So it's a lot more sheet metal, a lot more plastic, a lot more everything. So yeah, that would be, and by the way, I want to give a brief reminder here. 5 years ago, if I remember correctly, if I do my math correctly here, I think you could fill up the tank on one of those things for like $750. And I think now it's probably going to run you $1,000 plus to top it off now.
Depending on how big your tanks are, yeah. Yep. With the fuel prices how they are right now. Yeah, yes, sir.
Now, here's the thing. Okay, it's costing you an extra $250, $300, maybe a little bit more if you go to California, and we're going to talk about AB5. But it may cost you another $300 to fill up the tank. Are you all able to adjust what you're charging for that, or are you having to absorb that?
Not at all. You got to absorb that. I mean, you can bicker and go back and forth with the rates per mile. They might have a little bit of wiggle room, but for the most part, nah, you're gonna have to eat that. You're gonna have to cut some corners and making sure you're not idling your truck all night and all day. You're just wasting gas and things like that. So let's say you see a load on the load board that's paying $1,500, going a certain amount of miles. You might be able to say, hey, I can't run it for that, but I can do it for $1,700 or $1,800, and they might come back at you, well, $1,650. And if you don't, then there's a couple other guys lined up behind you that might take that low paying load that'll knock you out the box, and now you're sitting around waiting and your wheels aren't turning, so you're not making anything. So it's like it's a forced situation sometimes, if you're not prepared for it. Yeah.
Okay. For a new fellow who's out there on the road and he's trying to get to that point where he can become an owner operator in that regard there, how long would you tell him he needs to drive before he starts thinking about buying his own truck?
Ooh, at the minimum 5 years, and he needs to do at least 6 months to a year over the road. And the reason why I say that is because over the road is going to let you know that, okay, when you break down, how do you get a service repair? Or, how can you tell the mile marker where you're at to get the service truck to come, get you where you at? Where, you got to be able to tell them, I'm on Interstate I-20 at mile marker 450. You can't say I'm over here by the big green tree or whatever like that. A lot of guys that never went over, that have driven over the road, they don't know how to give you information and directions like that to come get for the repair truck to get to you. So I say at least a year you need to be over that road so you can learn the ins and outs and see the different cities and states and learn the interstate system. At least a year, no less than 6 months over the road, and then 5 years you need to be driving before you even think about purchasing your own vehicle.
Okay, and you're saying from an experience standpoint, basically what you're saying is that they need to spend that time to gain the experience.
Yes, sir, and learn the game. Learn how much it costs to fill up a tank. How big are your tanks? What type of vehicle you want to get? What are they paying rates per mile? What do you need to have for you to cover all your expenses and for you to still make money? So if this load is paying $250 a mile, maybe all your expenses are covered at what, $1.20 or $1.40. You need to know those numbers. And the way I found out those numbers is by running QuickBooks, and I can see all my expenses, what I'm paid on each load, how many miles I went, how much fuel I use. You gotta keep track of those numbers, or you will, run in the ground.
So basically you're running like a real business. You're going over budgets and numbers and actually keeping track of it, as opposed to, well, I feel like I'm making money or I feel like I'm doing okay.
No, yeah, you have to run a budget. You got to crunch your numbers, and you got to look at it on a daily or weekly basis, because it is a business. You cannot just fly by night it and think it's going to be all right. It don't work like that. I know from experience.
Okay, bit of an inside baseball question here, but I got to ask this. What type of loads would you suggest if you could start a fella on from day one, what type of loads would you suggest he start with? And what type of loads would you suggest he end with in order to get that proper amount of commensurate experience you're referring to?
Got you. I say start out with the easiest ones, the 53-foot dry van box trailers, because those are basically the shippers and the unloaders, they're gonna put the stuff in the trailer. They're gonna strap it down. You need to weigh it, make sure everything is weighed out so you're not over on your tandems or your steers, and you can just run the load. Once you start getting experience with just the dry vans and the 53-foot dry vans, then you can go to flatbed trailers where you got to strap.
Okay, let me go ahead and stop you there. Tandem and steers. Can you go ahead and explain to the lay people what you mean by that?
Oh, okay. On your trailer, you have on your truck you have your steer tires and you have your tandem tires, and then on your trailer you have your rear tandems. So when you're running the load, you can't be over 34,000 pounds on any of those tires on your trailer and your tandem tires. On your steer tires, which are the front of the truck, you can't be over 18,000 pounds on that. So when you're running the load, they're going to give you a load that weighs maybe 45,000 pounds. So you have to take into account the weight of the trailer, the weight of your tractor, and you got to make sure it's all even out. So it's no more than 34,000 on each set of tires and no more than 18,000 on your very front tires. Or if you're over that, you're illegal. You go through the weigh scale, they'll give you a ticket, and a very expensive ticket.
Okay, let's go ahead and deal with that then, because I got to tell you, I'm like you. I've traveled this country from coast to coast. I do it all the time. My wheels ain't quite as big, but they roll as far. And there are certain states that I have seen that are just, I mean, notorious for pulling folk over in groups, pulling trucks over in groups. I warn people all the time. Now, I'm from Louisiana. I think Louisiana kind of gets a bad rap in that regard, but then again, I'm not a truck driver. I hear some folks who complain and say it's a big problem. I've never really seen it as a problem like that necessarily. But I've heard truck drivers who don't like Louisiana. Texas tends to be pretty open. I've never really seen Texas be a lot of problems in that regard. The Carolinas, particularly South Carolina, forget about it. They go out in swarms to pull people over in the Carolinas, but particularly South Carolina. Florida, not that bad. Going into the Midwest, Missouri is hit or miss. Missouri is hit or miss. You catch them on the wrong day and they grabbing everything moving. The rest of the year, there's not a cop if you needed one somewhere. So it tends to do that. Indiana tends to come and swarm people. So like I say, in my opinion, from what I've seen. So if you're dealing with a new driver out there, in your experience, are there certain places that you would just tell him to avoid if he can, or would you tell him that, hey, this is the lay of the land?
Oh, no. Me, myself, even though I've been to these places, I don't even let my drivers go there. California, Oregon, Washington, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New Hampshire, all that Northeast, all that Northwest and the West Coast, avoid them. I definitely don't even like dealing with them. And then, because I'm here in Austin, Texas, but I've lived in Atlanta, Georgia for a while, driving trucks out of there. You have your certain times of the year when they call them blitzes. So the certain times of the year, DOT guys that be out there pulling over everybody trying to find any little infraction so they can make some money because that's their bread and butter, writing those tickets. Now you got to pay that ticket. So if your tire treads are not the right depth, or if you have your brakes aren't, they're too worn, they don't have enough meat on the pads and things like that. If you don't have your logs up to date, or if you don't have your permit book, things like that. They look for little infractions like that at certain times of the year so they can make a little money, write those tickets. It's a give and take thing. But definitely the Northeast and that West and that Northwest, I stay away from those.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, definitely depending on where you go in that regard. Pennsylvania, for example. In Philadelphia, not as bad. Once you get outside of Philadelphia, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen to you there. New Jersey is another place that New Jersey is real bad about that. Yeah. So it can be in New York State. Actually, I haven't seen it be that bad. If you dare to drive in New York, you dare to do it.
Yeah.
I can definitely understand that'd be a problem there. So if you just outright advise some of your fellas, hey, these are just no-go zones, period.
Yeah, you got to be seasoned to go in some of those areas, New York, New Jersey, all that. You got to know what you're doing, driving that 53-foot trailer up in there. You got to have some experience going to places like that.
So once they got the lay of the land, or at least they got some experience under their belt where that is concerned, and you feel like that, if he wants to buy a truck of his own now, what would you advise him to do? Obviously, for the new vehicles, they kind of backed up on that. But what I'm talking about, as far as what would be a vehicle that you would tell him absolutely not, no matter what he's thinking, what would you tell him absolutely not to get? Or the terms under which you would say, absolutely don't do that. We've already discussed lease purchase. But as far as he's looking for a truck of his own, like what areas, what websites or whatever would you tell him absolutely do not go there, don't touch any of those in that situation?
Oh man. There are a couple places out there where they're predatory. They know guys want to get in the truck and they think they're going to make all this money. Some of them are a little less informed, so they kind of prey on that. There's a couple out there, Lone Mountain. Let me see some of the smaller lots that are selling trucks. There are a lot of little small mom and pop shops that are trying to sell you a truck and get you up in there. There's nothing but a headache, nothing but a repair bill. And my personal preference as far as trucks, I try to get the most basic and simple truck there is. I don't want to get the high end Peterbilts and Kenworths and things like that. Those things are pretty expensive, although they are good quality trucks. I try to stick to what I know and what I went to school and learned on, which is Freightliners, Cascadias, things like that, because I know about them a little bit. Parts and things like that are a lot easier to find and get repaired. When you start getting into the more higher end trucks like Peterbilts, Kenworths, even the older trucks, where a lot of the truckers like with the square noses and the long noses, those, they're kind of more classy trucks. Them things are they're headaches and they're gas guzzlers. So you want to get in and be as economical as you can be, so you can make as much money as you can and use this to catapult you into other things, or so you can build your fleet.
All right, let's go ahead and discuss that there. You say you have 2 trucks now. How much debt are we in carrying those?
On my 2015 Freightliner that I got from Ryder, I've had that one for 3 years. So right now I only have about, I want to say 20,000 more to pay off on that one. I got a 2016. I got that one from OTR Leasing. I got another, I think, 3 years on that lease. And I got about another 35 on that one. But the notes are really good, and they were low mileage trucks. So I haven't had a lot of issues as far as repair costs. So even though, let's say one of my notes is only like $379 a week, sometimes I'll throw $1,000 a week at that, just to kind of get that down and bring it down so I can go ahead and get that paid off. So I'm not too bad as far as, on the debt end, but you're going to incur some debt if you don't have cash to go out there and just buy you a truck and just drop down on it and be good. So you're going to carry a little debt, but you got to weigh it out, and you got to be a smart businessman to have you some money in reserves.
Okay, that's important too. Because once you get under those things, that's going to be, like I say, you're going to be responsible for it. It's very difficult to get rid of a truck if it has problems or whatever. So once you start financing it, you're pretty much going to be set with it. So it needs to be all your ducks need to be lined up before you get under it, because that'll take you under real fast there. Let's go ahead and discuss in that situation there. Okay, they have their truck and everything. Let me ask you something that sounds a little bit niche because I want to talk about California. I want to ask you about something that's a little bit niche though. What do you think about winter driving?
I'm from Chicago, so I know about the snow. I know about driving in it. I've driven in it over the roads, but I don't like it at all. I've never liked driving those big trucks and all that snow and ice and slush and all that. When I was over the road, if there was ever a time when they say you have to chain up, and basically chain up means put chains on your tires so you can get grip and keep grip, because it's either that much snow or it's a little icy or a little iffy out there, I'm not even driving. If I have to chain up, I'm not even driving. So I've never liked doing winter driving, but you do need to get a little bit up under you to see how to work the brakes, see how to drive in the snow, see how to work your following distance so you're not following too close, see how to adjust your miles per hour when you're going around turns and curves. So some winter driving is necessary just to get the experience, but I'm not even gonna lie, I don't like it myself at all.
I think one of the biggest issues here, never mind if there's a wreck on the freeway and you're out there, like the thing that happened last year in Pennsylvania, I think it was. Folk were on that freeway there for like 27 hours or something insane. I'm from Louisiana where it snows once every 7 years. And to see folk on the freeway for like 27 hours, that was insane. I'm like, okay, you're just going to have a bunch of dead bodies out here.
Hey, check it out, Jason. I'm sorry not to cut you off. But remember back in Atlanta, Georgia, a couple years back when they had that snowstorm and all those trucks were stuck on for like 2 days. I was in that 2 days almost.
Yeah. Because last year, we had that ice storm come through Texas and Louisiana last February. That happened. And then it happened again this February, only it was Texas. It didn't really hit Louisiana like that. But last year, you're absolutely correct. I mean, just out of nowhere, that happens. So definitely that's something to keep in mind, especially in a situation where if you have a guy, he's a new owner operator. I'm asking this because obviously you're familiar with swoop and SWAT. And I think for a new person in particular, what would you advise them of in that kind of situation, especially in a snowy environment? How would you advise a new driver, if he's a new owner operator, what would you advise him to do in a situation where you're dealing with swooping and swatting in winter conditions? For those of you who don't know what swooping and swatting is, long story short, is where somebody's car tries to jump in front of you and they hit their brakes. They're trying to make you rear end them so they can go call Morris Bart or whoever. And they could get themselves killed trying to do that. And sometimes that does happen. But you see this kind of thing. There's videos on YouTube where you can see it. Hell, they're working in teams now trying to do this kind of stuff. So for a new driver out there who's got his own truck and everything, what would you advise him to do as far as that? I know they don't teach that in trucking school necessarily, but what would you advise him to do once he's out here on the roads in that kind of thing to keep his investments safe?
Man, go as slow as you can, as slow as you legally can on that road to keep you safe, because they will do that. They'll even do it when it's 100 degrees outside and there's nothing, good weather. They've tried to do it to me in Atlanta, Georgia before. They'll swoop in front of you, smashing on brakes. Man, so definitely take your miles per hour down, and you got to always be looking ahead of you, looking on side of you, and looking in your mirror, so you can always have an out, and you always got to have good following distance, but always drive your miles per hour what's appropriate for the weather. Raining and snow and sleet, stuff like that, take those miles per hour all the way down. Who cares if somebody behind you blowing the horn and this and that? Go slow. It's no joke. No joke.
Yeah, you're driving a Freightliner, not a Honda.
Right.
That's definitely to watch out there for. Back to the load situation here. At what point would you advise them to handle oversize?
Get some training on that. Though they pay very well. I mean, they pay very well, but you do have to have a little training on that, because there's certain roads and bridges and things where you can't go. You have to have the correct permits. If you don't have the correct permits, they'll give you a heavy ticket. But get you some experience. I say, if you can, driving or riding with someone that have done oversized loads or wide loads, because they're not anything to play with. But that is where the money is at. But yeah, you do got to get some experience and get some training on that, because you can't go certain places with those wide loads and those low boy trailers. If you go over certain railroad tracks, you're gonna get stuck. You can't even move or do anything.
Okay. Now, when the fella thinks that he's ready to start expanding in that regard, what would be your advice to him? He's got one truck now. He's thinking he wants to try to get 2 or 3 others. What would you advise him before he does that?
Look at your numbers. See how much you got in savings. Do you have enough in savings where you can cover, if you're going to get a note or whatever, if you can cover your note for a month or 2 months without sweating it, without having any issues, or, you're not eating, or you're not paying rent, you got to have some savings. One of my trucks went down last year in October for MCM computer module. It went down over in Kansas City, Missouri, or whatever. And by it being a backup on computer chips, that truck stayed up there until May of this year. So it went down October of last year. And I had to call around and find a part myself from a junkyard, because they're just so backed up with parts for it. So I still had to carry that note. You still got to pay your insurance. So I had enough of a cushion and enough of a nest egg where it wasn't breaking me and killing me like that. So you got to have money to the side to take care of that. If anything happens to one truck and you're trying to get that second truck, before you get that second truck, make sure you can pay for it if need be.
Okay, just so we can make sure about a couple of things here. In your opinion, how much of the purchase price of that vehicle should be reserved in cash, in your opinion?
At least 50%. At least 50%. And that's not hard to do if you have one truck and you're running it. You can make some money. You can make some good money if you just got one. So you should at least have 50% of that new truck in reserves if you're going to go buy one.
You know, I think a lot of people forget about the truism of business there. The number one reason that businesses fail is they say they run out of money, or the real thing is undercapitalization. All that really means is they ran out of money. Now, they could have run out of money for a certain any number of reasons, but the bottom line is the number one reason that businesses fail, 4 out of 5 businesses fail, because they ran out of money. And in the trucking business in particular, I think the number one reason that happens is because of underestimating the cost of something that was coming at you. And then it hits you and it's like, wow, I had no idea that the cost could spiral that much. Because what you're talking about right now about trucks being sitting at people's garages and whatnot, I've talked about 2 or 3 people who are having the exact same thing. They've had trucks that have been sitting up for 3 or 4 months because they got electronic parts, or in a few cases, mechanical parts. So like if you're dealing with Western Star or something like that, a few people got mechanical parts that the suppliers are taking months to get to them because they ain't got it. So you can't make any of the usual assumptions that you would have been able to make there before as far as how fast you're going to be able to move and be able to get back out there. So I think that's important too. For a new person who wants to get involved with that, what would you tell them as far as them dealing with brokers, dispatchers, or direct? What would you tell them? What would you advise them?
Try to get some direct shipper connections. And when I mean direct shippers, I mean, let's say if Billy Bob warehouse is shipping his product, instead of going to the load board, see if you can go to him directly and get that customer. And that's how you possibly get the contracts. So now you're dedicated to him, and now you're going to get a better rate. Let's say you might get $3.50 a mile, as opposed to when they put it on that load board, you got brokers that's going to eat off of it. Then it's going to go to you. So now you're probably getting $2, $2.10, or like Amazon, you're getting $1.79, $1.75 a mile, and that's just not good. So try to build connections and relationships with shippers and let them know that you can haul their product directly. So they don't.
Now, when you're saying shippers, however, you're referring to the business entity themselves.
Yep.
So, like, for example, and I know this is not realistic. I'm just saying, like, Sam's Club, if it were something smaller, or the Smith Furniture or something like that, is what you're saying.
Right. I had a good little thing going with HEB because my company is an MBE, a DBE registered business, which means a minority business enterprise and a disadvantaged business enterprise. That's basically means that I'm a Black man, I'm a small business. So bigger companies, they get incentives and contracts and they get deals for giving me their business. So I had a good thing going with HEB last year, and that's basically how I funded my second truck. I was running their loads out of San Antonio, basically not going too far, getting good money, and because that was a direct shipper. So it's always good to get direct shippers and build those relationships. Okay. That's how you get the contracts and get locked in.
I gotta ask this then. All right, so a fella's got a truck, or he's got 2 trucks here, and he's like, okay, let me go ahead and follow Mr. Coleman's advice. I gotta ask you, okay, how does he do that? He just hands out business cards. He just calls people. How would you recommend? I'm talking about from day one. Okay, he got up this morning. What does he do? Who does he call? How does he go about that?
Google any of these companies that you see that ship furniture, groceries, tires, any business, because everything is moved by trucks. Google, start cold calling, get you some business cards, even go pay them a visit. Make sure you're looking professional. You present yourself and your company correctly. Let them know, hey, I got my own company. I got my own authority. This is the insurance I have. Your loads are covered. This is how much experience I have. Can I run your loads directly so we can build a relationship and deal directly with you? Cold calling and paying visits, because everything is moved by trucks.
Which states do you think that works best in?
I'm in Texas, so it works pretty good. It works pretty good in any state, really. You just got to go to the business, because the business likes to deal with with you directly. They'd rather go with you directly than putting their load on that load board. So now they don't know if it's going to get picked up or what's the rate going to be. They don't know. It's kind of iffy. But when they're dealing with you directly, they know they can rely on you. They know what the price is. They know what you guys have in the agreement, and they know where their freight is and when it's going to get there. So I say all states are pretty good. You just got to have the hustle in you. You got to go out there and call and introduce yourself, make phone calls, and pound that pavement.
Okay. I want to come back to this here real quick because I get a bunch of folks who ask me about this. I have some people who say they want to become brokers, and you've been in the business here long enough. Typically speaking, I've got my own thoughts about that, but I'm here to get your ideas, so I don't want to color anything here. What do you think about somebody who says they want to become a broker?
I think it's a good idea, but you got to have the credit for it because you got to be bonded. You have to be bonded to move those people freight and to broker their freight to a third party because you're basically the middleman. But that's a good way where you can get good money without having the expense and the bills of a truck and fuel and maintenance and things like that. So you can definitely make a good living being a broker. Yep. Mm-hmm. But you got to have the hustle. You got to have the hustle because you got to call. You got to get customers. You got to call and you got to get out there.
Yeah, I've always seen that as the major impediment to becoming a broker. You've already got these other folks who have the connections and have the relationships, right. And now you're trying to elbow your way in. So I'm just really skeptical about that at this point right now. I think in my opinion, I think there's already a wealth of brokers out there now. So I can understand why somebody would want that. I just don't know how feasible that is in 2022.
Let me tell you something, Jason. You hit the nail on the head because I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing right now. Right now, it's really not feasible because I see how the game is going. When you have a trucking company, your business contact information is public. So I hire them. I have Indian companies calling me saying, "Hey, I want to dispatch your truck." So now they're just brokers. They're giving deals so good where my dispatch company will dispatch my load, dispatch my truckers, handle all the paperwork and do all that. For if the load pays $1,500 or less, $35 for that load. If it pays $1,600 or more, $60 to $75 flat rate. That is hard to beat. And this is an Indian.
That's crazy.
Company. Yes, this is an Indian company, and they just started doing this within the last maybe 4 to 5 months. I said, wow, so this is what the game is going to. So now you have a lot of overseas and just people that are just doing just that, and they're able to just cut it so low. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that number I think should be about 3 or 4 times that.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. Yes. That's why I jumped on it.
You said that's crazy, man. Now that I didn't know. When I know about the drivers, there's a bunch of Sikh drivers now, and I'm like, hey, get their money. They get their thing. But in the Midwest, Northeast, that Minnesota area, the Dakotas, they've been bouncing up heavy in those areas up there. And being from the southern United States, I think most of us don't even see that, and we're not aware of it. So I'm hearing they making noise up there in the northern part of the country. So it's all in the snow and everything. But as I understand it now, they're making a lot of noise and picking up a lot of business and running a lot of loads up there. Are you seeing that?
They killing it. Yes, them. And I've seen a big influx of the Asian population getting in and getting it. Yes, I see a lot of the Sikhs and I see a lot of the Asian. I'm like, wow, I didn't see this, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Now they're heavy in it. Yes, sir.
Like I said, I mean, it's competitive in that regard. So now that you said that about the Asians, usually in my experience, I see them more out west. So particularly California, we've been seeing that. So I got to ask about this. I'm sure you're aware of AB5. That's obviously going to have some serious repercussions. I don't even know if it's feasible, to be totally honest. I don't get it. California's always been a weird, wacky place. Now they've just made their situation a whole lot worse in my regard. But I don't want to overstate here. Although I'm pretty sure you probably heard about AB5 in California, where they want to basically run everybody like Uber. They basically want them, you're either under the company or not. So we got folks who are not able to go, folks who are saying they don't want to go in California now because basically it's like getting rid of the owner operators. If you're not under the company, then basically you're not really licensed to be able to go out there. How do you feel about that?
I don't like it at all. I mean, that's cutting out You know, this is America. It's supposed to be what, the capitalist system. So you're supposed to be able to compete. And, you know, they're trying to cut the small guys out. That's why I lived in California for about 7 years when I was doing music, but I never drove trucks there with my own company. And I don't even like going there. I don't take no loads into California, but I'm not feeling that at all. What they're trying to do out there, it really is going to hurt the smaller businesses, because we don't have the capital to compete with the bigger businesses, the bigger companies. Yep.
Yeah, and like I say, when I heard that and I saw that, I'm just like, okay, this is crazy. And then it went to the Supreme Court, and I'm like, okay, and they upheld that. So I have no idea what the rationale of that is. But you know, the whole point is nobody wants to drive under the truck, under the company. They want to be able to own their own and do that. So that's the kind of thing, you know, that you're looking at there, and it's just kind of crazy that would be happening at this point right here. What do you think they're thinking of? You already can't get the freight coming out of the ports like they should be. You already can't get that coming out. What effect do you think this is going to have on trucking in California?
Oh, it's going to bring it to a standstill almost. It's going to knock all the little guys out, you know, and that's going to make the rates go up, because the bigger guys, they're able to, you know, charge and do what they want to do. Because now we can't come in there, you know, maybe give a better rate or compete and get the prices down and move the freight. So now it's going to trickle down, because everything is moved by trucks. So it's going to trickle down to the cost of everything. Yes, sir.
I just wonder whether or not it's going to be able to even move anything. I think I've seen so many people saying they don't even want to go to California now. If that's going to be what the rule is, they're not even going to go. They're already, Port of San Francisco, Port of Oakland, Port of Los Angeles are both already backed up for months and months here now. It's a madhouse, and I just don't think that's wise. Of course, our concern is, how worried are you about something like AB5 moving to other states? Because you're already seeing rumblings that it seems like every time California does something stupid, Washington State is right behind them. So what do you think about that?
I don't want to see. I think it might come and kind of get to that. But my thing is always, I've always tried to think and stay ahead of the game. So I'm using my trucking company to get into other things. So I built my business credit pretty good. My payback score is good. I got tax returns. I got bank statements. So now I'm trying to leverage that I've done with my trucking company to get me money to go into do other entrepreneurship things and different things. You got to diversify. Trucking is getting a little tight. I think over the pandemic time, a lot of people started putting everything on Instagram and TikTok, making it seem like it was real easy to get into. It was a quick hustle. You can get it. And it's kind of just saturated the game. It really has saturated the game. And I'm kind of looking for my exit. I really am. I'm looking for my exit and trying to, you know, use this to kind of catapult and get me into other ventures.
Well, I certainly think there's a lot going on here right now. You got 15 years into it and whatnot. And certainly I think people need to be able to adapt to a changing environment. I've got my own thoughts about this part as well, but I want to ask you about this. Automated trucks. Are you worried?
Say one more time. Oh, automated trucks? Nah. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona for 1 year. Phoenix, Arizona does a lot of testing of that type of stuff out there. Like, they have cabs out there with no drivers in them. I saw them driving those things around in 2019. I lived in Phoenix for 1 year, hated it. Got up out of there and came to Austin. But I think they're doing the automated trucks out there in Phoenix as well. But I don't think that's going to be here for another, I want to say maybe 5-6 years.
I don't think it's ever going to be here. Yeah. I don't think it's feasible to have an automated vehicle out there with regular people, because it doesn't think like we do. Hell, if it thinks at all. If the vehicle has an accident, who's at fault? Exactly. You know, when the police show up, usually they can talk to two people. Okay, we're going to talk to one person, and then you're going to talk to the Google car over there. I just don't think that's feasible. I just don't think it is. How does one of these machines deal with rush hour traffic? Yep. How does it deal with the fact that, for example, General Motors Super Cruise, which right now, I don't give a damn what y'all heard from Tesla, Mercedes, anybody else, GM's self-driving technology is the most advanced one out there. And even in the case of Super Cruise, you know, Super Cruise does well for the vehicle in front of it, and it can do well for the vehicle to the side of it. but it doesn't have anticipatory abilities. So, for example, if the vehicle in front of you is driving too slowly, Super Cruise will change lanes to the inside lane. What it doesn't do is take a look at the vehicle in front of them in the inside lane and then see if it's moving slower than the lane that you're in. So you might wind up it might wind up changing you over to a lane that's actually about to be slower than the one that you're in now, because it doesn't think that way. It doesn't see it the way that you and I do with our eyes. We're taking in a lot more information. Or for a car coming up behind you. So for that reason, I don't see it as ever being truly viable. I think for some long haul applications through sparsely populated areas. So West Texas through Arizona, Interstate 10, 140, there's going to be places I think where it's desolate, not very big population. They're abandoned urban areas, Brownsville, Texas, things like that.
New Mexico, Wyoming, where it's wide open.
Yeah, I don't. The places where the speed limit is 95, I just don't think that it's viable as a widespread application. I think Elon Musk is going to make a lot of money selling the idea. I just don't think there are going to be a lot of trucks that can use it.
Yeah. And what's funny is I live maybe 5 miles from that Tesla factory here in Austin off 130. So we've ran loads in and out of that Tesla plant, and it's horrible. Man, it takes forever. But we're not that far from that Tesla plant, but I don't think that's a viable option either. I really don't. I don't think it's gonna fly or go.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be the case there either. In this situation here, I want to thank you for your time on this, because you've been a good amount of information in this regard. If a person wanted to start their own trucking concern, about how much money would you advise them that they need if they're going to try to have their own, open up their own shop and run their own trucks more than just 2 or 3? How much would you advise them to start with?
Ooh. Now, are you saying starting with one or starting with multiple? How much they should have to start with one or multiple?
Well, let's just say let's just say he has in mind that he wants to ultimately run 6 trucks. Ultimately. Okay. Obviously, he's got to scale up, obviously. So if you knew somebody, he's an owner operator, he owns 1 truck now, but he's thinking he wants to ultimately run 6. What are you telling him financially he needs to do?
Have your credit together. That's one thing. I say you got to at least have, if you want to go that big, you got to at least have 200,000 that you just got there, waiting for you to, pick in and, grab, because you're not going to go buy them just cash out. You want to have some cash on side, for other things, and you really want to deal with other people's money. So I say you got to have at least 100, 150, 200,000 there if you're trying to get 4, 5, 6 trucks. You really need to have that. You really do.
Now, I got to ask you about the boogeyman that will always pop up in the room. These trucks don't drive themselves, which means you got to have somebody else driving for you. Probably the biggest issue in trucking is getting the experience, but if you're an owner-operator, the biggest problem is going to be who's driving.
Yes.
I have heard every horror story under the sun. I've heard some things that literally made me say, what in the hell were they thinking? And was there any thought actually going on? I have seen trucks on their side. I have seen trucks in ravines. I have seen trucks upside down. How in the hell do you do that? But somehow they pulled it off. I do enough driving. If you've seen Interstate 20, that's nothing but trees on the sides of it. It's not like 10, whereas 10 is usually pretty open once you get, past Alabama. 20 has got trees everywhere. And especially when you get from Louisiana all the way to Florida, it's just trees on both sides. It seems like every time I go through there's somebody, it's never Louisiana, but somebody goes straight off the road up into the trees like he's trying to park the truck up there. What do you do for drivers? What is your system, your methodology for picking or choosing drivers, and is it working?
Oh man, that's the hardest part. That's the one of the major factors why I'm just like, I want to transit. I don't want to grow anymore. I want to transition away from it in a couple of years. But what I was doing was a couple of years, I went through temp services. I used to drive for temp services. So what I did is I went to the temp services and said, hey, I need a driver for my company. And I let them get them, screen them, get them drug tested, do the road test, do their background check, got to have their experience. But I tend to outsource that. I tried doing it on Craigslist, what else, like Facebook Marketplace, and just word of mouth, from people that I know. And you got to know the drivers. You really got to know them, because they're going to be in your equipment. They're going to be driving your trucks. That's your DOT number. So if they're doing anything crazy, getting any tickets, any accidents, that's on your DOT number and your insurance. They doing anything crazy, it's going to kill you on the insurance. So I tend to outsource that. So I let a third-party company that kind of can source drivers, find them, get them verified, get them road tested, and send them to me. And you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay just the company to find your drivers. You're going to pay them anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 per driver that they find for you. And a lot of times the drivers, they don't stay because they know it's a high demand market, so they can move around and move around willy-nilly how they want to. So I say go with a third-party company or recruiter to find your drivers, and make sure you do drive test them.
All I can say to folks is I've seen everything. I literally don't have a lot of great advice except what you say. You got to monitor. Hopefully they have experience, monitor, watch them, but it's really just one of those things. Either you find a really good driver or it's terrible. It's really not a lot of in between. You either got folks who are serious about the business, or you got folks with habits. You don't want to, this is me talking, but stop me if any of this sounds familiar. You don't want somebody who's doing a bunch of habits if they got any. You don't want somebody who is hoe chasing. Right. You don't want somebody who is prone to lot lizardry, shall we say. We don't really want that happening. Them dudes are liable to park your truck anywhere. They're liable to take it anywhere and park it anywhere.
Or leave it. Yep.
Trucks are getting broken into all over the damn place, and you certainly don't want somebody here. He done got off Interstate 65 and taken it behind some housing project. And next thing you know, he's doing whatever, and your investment is sitting there. Yep. So, I think that's something very big to watch out there for. I've got some folks who have some questions here, Mr. Coleman. Would you be up to answering a couple of them?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I got Ian on Zoom. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Well, Ian is on Zoom. I don't know if he's hearing himself or not there, but Ian is doing something different, so I'm not sure what he's doing over there. Okay, well, Ian is trying to make his way through life, so we'll go ahead and let him have the weekend here. Let me get caller from area code 770. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, top of it, y'all. My name is Jamal. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm calling out of Walcott, Iowa. I'm over here across the street from Iowa 8.
All right, what's on your mind, brother? What do you want to ask?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, well, brother, have you I'm talking, bro, I ain't get your name, man. I tuned in late. I know you said that you was interested in taking a different route with your trucking. Have you ever thought about purchasing a line haul business from FedEx? I heard you say that you used to work from FedEx. They sell the line haul contracts.
Yeah, you got to have some bread to get those. When I had one of my first trucks, I did a contract with FedEx. It was called Custom Critical. So basically, you would have your own truck, you would run under their DOT and things like that, but they would call you at the last minute. They'll say, hey, Mr. Coleman, we got to load 100 miles from you. How soon can you be there? They would pay very, very well, but they were very strict, and you had to be on the go like that. But you got to have that bread to purchase those UPS and those FedEx line haul routes. And it's a pretty penny.
How much in reserves? How much in reserves are you saying? Not to cut you up.
Man, at least at least 2. Because FedEx is going to want to see that you got capital. They want to see that you can maintain your company and get, because you got to run them loads. You got to be able to move them loads and them, truck breakdown. You got to have driver retention, all of that. Yes, sir. And so Amazon is doing the same thing right now. Yeah, Amazon.
You're ready for Bayer then.
Yeah, Amazon is doing the same thing right now. Right now, they're selling routes and contracts and things like that. So, but you got to have a minimum of like, I think 3 trucks. You got to have a certain amount in the bank. They want to verify that with a bank statement and all of that. Yes, sir.
And then there's one more thing I want to touch up on. Really, I mean, Jason, you had mentioned the self-driving. I mean, honestly, I don't think that's really gonna go too far. I mean, unless they doing local. I drive flatbed. I mean, there's no way in the world they're gonna have an automated flatbed, truck on the road. That's just out of the question. I mean, if something go wrong with the straps and binders, it's over with.
Yeah, I mean, I think this.
Then, like,
I bring it up because every once in a while somebody mentions that, and I've been telling them for years. Look, it's not viable. I've been out there long enough. It's not really viable. I think that Elon is going to make a lot of money, make some money selling the idea. I just don't think they're going to sell a lot of trucks. You're going to put them out. Even if you try to put them out there, it's not going to work. I think he's a great salesman. That thing about having them running in a convoy where, hey, you can have one truck and there's one human driver and he can have 3 trucks behind him following him. Hey, that sounds great on paper, I think. But I think in execution, if you really think about it, that doesn't work either. So I think he's a great salesman. I just don't think it's practical or will work. So I think a lot of folk are going to spend a lot of money on speculative ventures, and that's what's going to happen. That's all. And we've seen this movie before, by the way. Flying Cars, for example. Thank you very much for giving us a call here. Let me get Tony L. Go ahead and unmute yourself. All right, Tony.
How you doing, Justin?
All right, brother. What's on your mind? What you want to ask?
I wanted to ask, what do you all think about team driving?
All right, Mr. Coleman, what do you think about team driving?
I did team driving when I came out of school. When you come out of school, they make you do a team driver with a trainer for about 3 weeks or until they feel you ready to go on the road. And then I got lucky, man. I'm not even gonna lie. This is when I was a single man. I happened to meet a young lady that was working for the same company, and me and her team drove. That's where you get that money, because that truck is 24/7. While she's running, I was in the sleeper bunk. When I was running, she was in the sleeper bunk. That's a good way to get some money quick and to get some experience quick, because you're gonna run them loads, because that truck is 24/7. A lot of guys, when they're doing teams, they can do a lot of the mail runs. I know here in Texas, they do a lot of mail runs from Texas, like California or Florida, and they need team drivers, and they pay very well. But you got to be able to get along with that dude or whoever it is you're gonna be driving with, living in that truck. But yeah, that's how you get the money. Yeah, team driving. Yep.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I actually had plans to do team driving with a family member. So that's actually good to hear. And Jason, I did follow your advice. I am working on my hazmat. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's across the states, but in the United States, you have to take a class before you actually take the DMV test to get your hazmat endorsement now. But it's Tony I too, by the way, because every time I come into your chat and everything, you hit me with the Tony L, but it's Tony I.
Okay.
My last name.
All right. Well, Mr. Coleman, I'm not 100% certain about that myself. I know in some places they are requiring that. I've always heard that. Wow. I don't know if that's a Department of Transportation thing or something that is national. I don't know if that's the case, because I haven't heard that. Have you heard that?
Nah, that one got me kind of surprised, man, because I've had my hazmats my whole time. I've had my whole career. I have them now. And when I got my license changed over to Texas about 3 years ago, I just had to do my written test at the DMV. But wow, I didn't know they got you taking a class now. I need to look into that.
I apologize to interrupt you. Yeah, it's called ELDT training, and of course they have a whole website that you can pick schools from to go online or in person now. I think they implemented this early February of this year, and then they went ahead and put it in effect more or less probably like a couple of months ago. So because I was about to get my hazmat endorsement, I had already studied up for the test and everything for the DMV, and then when I went there, she put me on pause. She was like, did you go take the course for it? I was like, what are you talking about, a course? And she just gave me a little piece of paper with a website on it, and it's legit. You have to go to a class now before you actually get to take your hazmat training.
Okay,
I mean, not
now,
training, test.
Does it cost?
Hazmat endorsement.
Does that cost you anything?
Yeah, the school it does cost you. I've been finding out that it's been between, depending on the school, between like 120 and probably 160. I think I've seen some upwards of to like $200, $300 too.
Wow.
Okay, well, definitely keep me posted about that because I'd like to know more. Like I said, I try to stay as involved and as aware of as much as I can. So if that's something that I start seeing and hearing more of, because I've heard this already, I just haven't heard it being everywhere. So I have heard this, yes. I haven't heard this being some nationwide requirement or something. That I have not heard. So if that is the case, I'll take this as an opportunity to update my files on it and whatnot. Far as I've heard, I haven't seen that yet, but I'm not gonna sit here and swear by it. I know they made a lot. I know the Pete Buttigieg and whatnot. He's doing everything to try to justify being in charge of transportation. So we're seeing a lot of things happening now where he's just doing stuff to be doing stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear that at this point. No.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's the across the nation, but I'm in Tennessee. I'm from Nashville and I currently reside in Oak Ridge. And I know it's happening all across Tennessee. What I could do, Jason, I'll send you to your email if you don't mind the links that I have that actually shows that you have to take this to get your
okay. In the chat room, they're saying it's a part of the ELDT. There's a part of ELDT. So
wow.
I heard about it. I just didn't think it was something that was kicking nationwide everywhere like that. So I did hear about it. Like I say, if I need to update on that, I definitely will. I would not be surprised because there's a number of things they're making changes on just to be making changes. So I would not be surprised to see that happening at this point. I would not be surprised to see that happening just because, hey, just because we can, just after after the Walmart truck hit Tracy Morgan and them, that was when they really wanted to start clamping down on folk for their hours because it was a high profile thing. So certainly I would not be the least bit surprised to see they want to try to do that just so they can say they're doing something.
Right. Because right before I got my license, which I've had mine for about a year now. And like right before I got my license, I had somebody tell me, like, make sure you get it before February next year, because the way they're going to start training people, they're going to make the maneuvers you're going to have more maneuvers, kind of like
yes, I did hear about that.
Parking.
Yes, I did hear. Now that I did hear about. Yes, I did hear that was going to be a change before February. Yes, now that I have heard.
Well, you know what? And let me interject here on dovetail off that. Walmart does that when you work for them. They make you. They send you off to a little week-long school, and before you can drive for them, you gotta do parallel park, you gotta dock and do all that. Yeah, they make you go through a heavy test to drive for Walmart. I drove for Walmart for about 4 or 5 months. Yep.
I mean, because you got to. I mean, to drop off with them, you have to be able to dock and everything and come in backwards. So you have on inclines or declines, you have to be able to do that with them. So that definitely makes sense in that regard there. So, like I say, Tony, it sounds like that is something that is happening here. So definitely everybody needs to be aware that this is a thing. This is not, for play or whatever. It is a thing. However, you're in an industry, is an industry. It, contrary to popular belief, it's only going to get bigger at this point. The only thing that's going to make it smaller is a smaller population of people. I think COVID taught us that even if you lock folk in their houses, all they're going to do is go buy more stuff. So I don't see it getting smaller. I don't see that being the situation there at all. I think that essentially, this is the way that things are going to be going forward, and folks just got to be aware of that so they can make the necessary changes to it. But look, I mean, if it's a couple $100, go ahead and pay that and get your hazmat, but get it out of the way early. Don't think you're going to come back later and do it. It's been my experience. If you don't do it at the beginning, you're going to get so busy hustling and making things happen that you just won't come back for it. And that's not a lot of money to pay. Is $120, $150. That's not, but that might be enough to get somebody who's let's just say you're being lazy or whatever, just
Serious.
procrastinating, that might be just enough to get him to stop at the beginning. And next thing you know, he's never going to get his hazmat. So that could be enough to stop them in their tracks. Thank you very much for giving us a call here, Tony. We appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much for tuning in here. I want to get wrong person here. I didn't want to get no, not Tony. Let me see if I can bring Brandon up in here. I'm going to try to get Brandon on the line, see if we can get him on there. So Brandon, go ahead and turn your microphone on there for us. Make sure you're ready for that there. Make sure you turn your microphone and your camera on there for us as well. Okay, well, I'm waiting on Brandon there. All right, Brandon, what's on your mind? Okay, Brandon, I see him. Brandon is, Brandon looks like he's getting ready to start a punk rock band. I don't know what's going on there, but Brandon, we don't hear you.
In the truck too. He getting it.
Yeah, he's Brandon, you're punk rocking. We don't hear you though. Your audio's not on, brother. Yeah, check your audio for that. Yeah, he is intellectually ready for the industry. I will say that he is intellectually ready for the industry, but technically though, he is not quite as prepared as I would like to see him be there. So Brandon, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and shelve you for a minute here because we're not able to hear you. So go ahead and try that a little bit later. Let me get on the telephones here. Caller from area code 504. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Chris from Louisville, Jason.
Chris from Louisville. And what's on your mind?
Well, I'm calling from Louisville. I live in Louisiana. But listen, I think a lot of times these guys are saying that you can't make money out here on the road, and it's too hard to do this and do that. I think a lot of times they don't explain to these young guys how you make money. Because I've coached like 20 of them. They've got their trucks, they've got their authority. I've coached them on how to make money in the beginning when you don't have much capital. Because a lot of people are not going to come into this industry with money. You have to know how to make money, get your loads, make your money, and let the loads pay for your trucking. Okay, you can pick a load up. The load pay $2,500. You get with a factoring company. You don't have a fuel card. You're in the beginning stages. Get with the right factoring company. They would pay you half 50% up front. That can cover your fuel, your repairs. Once you deliver your load, you get your other 50%. You do that until you build up your money, and then you get your own fuel card. Okay?
Okay, but how early in your trucking career would you be able to do that, though, reliably?
Yeah.
Well, if you start off with one of the big companies, like I've been with TBS like 11, 12 years. Okay? Once you start off with them, if you start off and get your authority directly through them, they will allow you to do that in the beginning. Okay? Once you do that for maybe 6 months, save you some money, then you can get off the factory. Okay? You factor your loads after you get paid. After you deliver your load, you get paid in 2 hours. You do that, you save your money, you bill, and then you get on the regular 30-day payroll or 14-day payroll. And that's how you get yourself going. And like that, you can start off. You don't have to sit back, wait 4 or 5 years trying to save up $20,000-$30,000, man. You'll never get that.
Okay, well, actually, you can get that, sir. So, actually, you can.
I mean, you can, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I was a single guy, and I wasn't anything near the trucking business, so I was able to do that. I mean, unless, like I said, unless you're out here blowing your money on, casinos and hoes, I mean, that's not going to be a big issue there. Here's the thing about purchasing.
Course, yeah.
The real question, though, is about purchasing your own vehicle. And if it doesn't matter what you purchase or how you purchase it, you have to be ready for all the associated costs, but most importantly, the unexpected ones. And there will always be unexpected costs. There's always going to be something that blindsides you. So under an ideal scenario where you get a vehicle and there's no breakdowns, well, wouldn't everybody love that? And you get a vehicle that doesn't require any real maintenance for the first 24 months. Wouldn't everybody sign up to buy that truck? The real thing is, how often
Right.
is that realistic? So I hear what you're saying, and under your scenario, that works great as long as you have no other expenses. That works fine. No money in works great as long as it doesn't require any money out.
Right. Now, in the beginning, you know, I had breakdowns and stuff like that. So what I did was, I had a cousin that was a mechanic, taught me how to do certain things. Before you know it, I had my own service truck. And I do most of my repairs, do most of my preventative maintenance. If you do a lot of that, it'll prevent a lot of things.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you want to stay on
those-
top of your maintenance. You want to stay on top of that from the very beginning
Yeah.
if you can. But first, you have to get there. And I do not see how you make that occur without having the money there. You can do it, but that's just going to be risky. It's going to be very risky, and it requires all the ducks to be lined up and all the stars to be aligned and for everything to go exactly like it needs to be. And in my opinion, for most people, especially in the trucking business, that's just going to be a very rare exception. But thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. We appreciate that. Mr. Coleman, I find that to be kind of a rare thing in that regard. I just don't think that's the kind of thing that folks are going to encounter on a regular basis. It's cool if you can get it. It's great if you can get it. But for the average person going into it, I think it's going to be very daunting and very challenging to have everything just go the way you want it to, or the way you need it to.
Yeah,
Very challenging to see that occur.
very. And he said something about the factoring companies. I've never heard of that, where they'll pay you half of the load before you run it, and then the other half afterwards.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that either.
No, like I've factored with Love's before. They'll give you a fuel card. No, they'll take the fuel out after 7 days, and you can do repairs, and they'll do like a net 30 billing. But they wasn't giving you any money until you ran that load and turned that BOL in. Now they'll pay you the next day, but it ain't no you get half up front, run the load, and get no. They don't know if you're gonna break down or not, if you're gonna not go get the load or just whatever. So no, I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's not something I'm familiar with there either. Let me get caller from area code 708. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
TVA, this is James from Chicago.
James from Chicago. What's on your mind?
First off, I want to say shout out to you. This is a very great broadcast, but I just got a couple quick questions for your guest. My first question is, you stated earlier that you don't like to drive during the winter because of, you know, the dangers and driving through the snow. So my first question is there an incentive for truck drivers driving during harsh weathers and conditions? Do companies pay them more? That's my first question.
What they're not going to pay you more if you don't tell them. If you're going to ask them, say, hey, I don't. And this is what I learned when I was doing it. I used to use that word safety. I don't feel safe, or man, this is kind of might be a safety issue. So, but they'll give you more. But if you're a company driver, no, they're not giving you more. You work for the company, so they already have the price for the load. Now, if you're an owner operator, you have your own business, yeah, you get more, you know, up north in the Midwest in those winter months, yeah, they pay more. But if you're a company driver, no, that company's going to tell you either run the load or park it. Yeah, if you don't feel safe, okay, go park it. But I don't know how long you're going to be at that company because they pay you to run that load. But no, you can't negotiate with your company when you're a company driver, but you can when you're an owner operator. Yes, you can.
That's basically
Okay, thank you. My second question is, when it comes to buying your own truck, what are some of the things that you look for if you're buying a used truck? What are like the, you know, things that you try to avoid and things you pay very close attention to run into the least amount of problems on the road?
Good question.
I'm not a mechanic at all. You know, I have guys that are diesel mechanics, and I take them with me to look at the truck, and there's only so much you can do. Just like when you go buy a used car, you know, you can check the tires, you can check the brakes, check the oil, you know, check your filters and belts and all of that. But there's only so much you can do. Those trucks run almost 24/7. So you got to do your due diligence as best you can. I tried to get my trucks that had lower mileage, that, you know, 500,000 or less, you know, that's less wear and tear on the truck. But there's only so much you can do. Take a diesel mechanic with you, let them check it out. But you know, there's only so much you can do if it's not a new truck.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I want my man R. Holland here. I got him on the line also on Zoom. Go ahead and unmute yourself, brother. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on? I'm Dunamis from the chat. Thanks for having me. I'm I-5 northbound in Cali. I was wondering, could you speak on the tire fund that you can have with Loves and TA, and you can basically put like money into their account and get tires at a lower cost? Are you familiar with that?
No, I had a Loves account. I didn't have a fund like that, but what it was when I would get repairs or I would get tires, they would do a net 30 billing. But I think what you're talking about is like an escrow account. So you can put money into an account. So now when you're going to get your tires, you may get a bit of a discount or things like that. But Loves offers you a discount anyway when you have an account with them. Because I used to get fuel from them. They give you a fuel card, and they give you a code. It's called a start code. So you can go to any of their Loves and get your PM and small maintenance repairs done there, and they'll give you a little bit of a discount. They do a net 30 billing, and they give you a good like a little bit of a discount on the tires. But I'm not familiar with an account where you can just kind of put money in it and they'll let you use it or something like that. Yeah,
I believe what you're saying is like more correct. It's been a while since I've talked about it. I do appreciate your response. Second question, since you've been on the road, could you also speak about like how much it costs to for tow trucks to come get you, or for people to come like do repairs for you on the side of the road? Because to be honest with you, the people that for this trucking industry, the people that make the most money, I believe, are probably them.
Yes, they do, man. And the way that goes is, that's an excellent question. They charge you by the distance that they got to come to get you. So the further distance you are, they're gonna charge you more by the mile, about an hour. So me, I like I said, I dealt with Love, so they had a roadside service call number that you would just, you give them a call and they come out and service you. But they are the ones that are making money, and it can be very pricey. And sometimes they're only equipped to do light maintenance work. They can't do anything too major when they're coming out. They can do some tire repair, some little minor stuff, a belt or something like that. But other than that, yeah, you're shit out of luck. Excuse my language. But yeah, it can be very pricey. You're right.
Well, welcome to the business. Well, thank you very much, Dunamis, for giving us a call in here tonight. As always, here we appreciate that. Like I say, I've known dudes who did that kind of work there too, by the way. So that's very involved, but you're absolutely right. And you're kind of at their mercy, to be totally honest with you. If the truck breaks down the road somewhere, especially if you're an owner operator, if you're part of a bigger company, at least, and for the tow truck fees, okay, because we kind of think of it in two. I don't know of too many companies who do towing and repair. Do you? Because I don't know of too many outfits that do towing and repairs. Usually towing or repair.
Yeah.
Towing and repair.
Yeah, you call the roadside can't do it. You call that tow truck, they're just gonna tow you. They're gonna tow you to where they're gonna post you up and get you repaired. So you're right.
Yeah, those trucks that tow 18-wheelers are monstrous vehicles. They are extremely expensive. There's not very many places that do them. When you go to a state, it's gonna be like one place in the city that does that. And then other than that, you're just kind of on your own in that regard there. Let me see. Kevin Blackman, go ahead and unmute yourself. What was on your mind?
Can you hear me, brother?
We hear you. What's on your mind, brother?
All right. Thank you for having me up, man. Long time listener. I really appreciate it. I'll make it as quick as possible. I've been listening to you for a while. I started out as a Class B driver, driving public transportations. And then it finally clicked. I wanted to increase my income, so I went up to Class A. I'm fully endorsed. Doubles, triples, tankers, hazmat, the whole nine. But what I would like for you to address in the upcoming weeks or months is for people such as myself who are making that transition and now your income is doubled. How do I go about budgeting my money to make sure that I'm seeing more of the earnings that through your advice I'm grabbing a hold to?
Okay. Well, here's the real thing about it. When I advise you all, the number one thing here is that as Black men, we kind of are artificially held into a economically deprived situation when you are unskilled. Now, you don't necessarily have to go into IT or go into engineering or whatever. There's not a damn thing wrong with being a plumber, mechanic, truck driver. That's fine, but play the game. Don't let the game play you. So the biggest issue I've had is if you're going to get your CDL, you got to be in it to win it. And as Mr. Coleman will tell you, we've seen it 100 times, usually you trying to be local, you ain't in it to win it. You trying to stay chasing lot lizards, you ain't in it to win it. You're not trying to kick no money back and hold it. You're not in it to win it. If you're not looking to expand or upgrade, you're not in it to win it. So that's been basically, in my mind, the biggest issue that's had. If I can get you over that situation from being unskilled and making $36,000 a year or $40,000 a year, and get you with your CDL or some sort of endorsement or certificate or something, some sort of license or something that gets you over that $80,000, $90,000 a year mark, now you're not sitting here economically deprived. And at that point, you can start making moves of your own. This is one of the single biggest questions I'm getting now from some of you who've been following me for years. Like, okay, Jason, you got me out of that, entry level position. What do I do now? Brothers, the only answer I can give you all is I'm here to get you to a position where you can now start choosing what you want to do. Because when you're making $36,000 a year, you can't choose nothing. You can't make any decisions in your life of your own. So it's not like it's like, well, Jason led me out here, but what do I do now? I'm trying to get you to a position where, hey, you can make these moves. At some point, you have to say, what do I want to do with my life? I can promise you one thing: at $36,000 a year, you ain't gonna do much. Whatever it is you think you're going to do is you're not going to get much done there. So if I can get you to 80,000, 100,000, 150, now just choose what you want to do and you can actually do it now instead of sitting back dreaming.
Right. Well, thanks to your advice, bro. I'm definitely there. I'll be just 100% honest with you. I know a couple of people who have businesses in this industry, and to be truthful with you, bro, when I think about doing it for myself, it's a little bit intimidating because I see all of the struggle and the things of that nature that they're going through. Now, I just recently got into a position where I can strike up an independent contract with another brother who's doing it. But I want to take my time when it comes to, I don't want to stay where I'm at, but I want to take my time because I'm going to be honest, I'm still a little bit intimidated because more is on the line when it comes to my survivability and whether or not my family thrives when I step out and do it on my own, when I buy that truck for myself, when I establish those contacts and stuff like that. So I'm listening to you, brother, and I'm trying to move in the direction that you, being a person who advised me, would like to see me take it.
I mean, here's the thing, brother. It's like anything else in this life. Everything's intimidating until you get out there and do it.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
it's if you don't come from a family of people who do it, hell yeah, it's going to be intimidating. But that's just, everything's intimidating. Your first day of school, like that's I said, I don't want to diminish it that level, but I'm just saying, it's like,
no, you're right, brother.
How intimidated were you when you first signed up for truck driving school? Before you start going coast to coast, how intimidated were you about that when they said, okay, you're going to have to drive this load 1,500 miles?
Yeah, man, I came from bus driving and that was comfortable to me. So it was a huge fear of failing. You know what I mean? That was the biggest thing, to go out of a passenger bus to an 18-wheeler. I was scared, you know what I mean, every day in school until I passed the actual test out here I'm in California. Until I passed the test, man, I was scared.
Well, here's the thing, and I think Mr. Coleman will agree here. I think the biggest thing that worries us necessarily is, like I said, being undercapitalized. Am I going to make a decision that wipes me out financially? So, and it's not just you anymore. Like, if you're a young man and you don't have a family, it's one thing. It's one thing when you got, other folk depending on you, Right, so what I'm saying is, number one, that's why I tell you, if you got a financial cushion, that really takes a lot of the stress off of you.
Okay.
So, for example, now this is my standard for it, okay? I think Mr. Coleman will agree, but I don't want to put no words in his mouth. In my opinion, the reason why I tell you, and that's why I think why he said have 50% of it, if the truck gets wiped out tomorrow and the insurance company don't want to pay you anything,
I'm writing.
If you got 50%, you can go get another truck today.
Yeah, you can.
You can go get,
right.
I mean, you literally gonna be down for all of what, 72 hours? That's if you take a day off. So what I'm saying is, when you've got that kind of wherewithal, how intimidated are you about that now? If you're like, okay, I budgeted that in. I budgeted in, by the way, an Armageddon scenario. If I just lose the truck tonight, how long am I going to be down? And if you have the ability to buy another one, I think that right there takes a lot of that intimidation factor off of you, which is why I say be prepared for that. When I say catastrophe, I mean catastrophe. How many times have I rolled through Texas, Alabama, and seen an 18-wheeler on the side of the road in flames from the engine bay? From the engine bay.
It's over.
Okay, so I'm just saying, did he see that coming this morning when he left out? So I just think if you're worried about that scenario, hey, you're a grown man. Budget for that scenario. Yes, budget for an Armageddon. Let me tell y'all something. After all my stuff got stolen here, after I made my first film, everything got wiped out. You know what? Ever since then, I made it a part of my budgeting for my credit. My credit literally could replace all of my gear. Do I have insurance? Yes, I do. Do I have income? Yes, I do. But I literally got my situation together where I literally could replace all my stuff on one credit card if I needed to. Now, I ain't needed to, but I think that's a testament to the fact that I've always factored that in. So no, I think it's silly to factor in a flat tire. Y'all need to be factoring in engine blocks and transmissions.
Right. Yep.
Right.
And my thing, I was going to chime in, brother. My thing was this.
Come on, brother.
I'm scared about what happens if I don't do it.
Yeah.
If I don't do it. Just, what's going to happen if I don't? That's just been my motto in life. When I went out to LA and did music, I'm coming from Chicago, didn't know nobody. Went out there and did. I was scared if I don't do it. If I do it and I fail, okay, I can go back to Chicago. I can go back and go get a job and start over and do my thing. I'm scared if I don't do it. Look at it like that. We grown men, we're gonna handle it. You can do it, you're gonna handle it.
Man, thank you very much, Mr. Coleman. You really just nailed it on the head right there. I know dudes, like I said, you was a bus driver. I know dudes working at the post office and whatnot. Well, I don't want to step out there and do that because what if I fail? Nigga, they'll always hire you back at the post office. You can always, if you fail, you can always go back there.
That's true.
You can't necessarily do this again, but if you really that worried, Wendy's will always take you back. Whatever it is, wherever you were working at before, just tell me, can I get my job back there? Yes, you can. So what you worried about?
Nigga, grab the spatula. We need that.
Yeah, I mean, you can if it don't work, okay, you can always go back where you were. But you'll never be 29 years old again with this opportunity to do that. You'll never be 33 with the opportunity to do that. So, man, what you scared of? What you worried about? What you worried about?
You know what you right. You're right. And I hear you, brother. And I mean, the answer is simple. You just said you budget in for it. So just to crystallize what you're telling me is, okay, if the very first step you make financially, if you're on the road to becoming somebody who's a business owner, especially in trucking, you got to budget in. If something happens to that truck, you can be right back on the road getting your bread within 72 hours.
Yeah, if you budget that in, y'all need to budget in for a catastrophic loss. When you go to work for a company, you're used to the company budgeting for that. If you wipe out a truck, you're used to the company being budgeted for that. If you're going to step into that role, guess who's the company now? The only district, you're the company. So all you got to do now is remember, hey, I have to budget in for that. Nobody's coming to save me. I got to make sure I got all my I's crossed, all my I's dotted and T's crossed. Like the brother Mr. Coleman was saying at the very beginning about his authority. It's really just about making sure you've handled your business beforehand. The time to have your book straight is not after the South Carolina State Troopers done pulled up behind you. The time to have your book straight is before you hit 95 South. That's the time to be doing that, not after you get there. So that's all it really comes down to.
You are so right, man. And I'm gonna let you go, bro. But you're right about that because I run loads in and out of the Port of Los Angeles, and CHP been out there for the last 3 days jamming cats up. So you are absolutely right.
Oh, they got them like ducks, like fish in a barrel. They're just sitting right there. It's like, oh, we got you all right here. We want you. Kind of makes you think like it's engineered. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight here, brother. There's one person I want you to talk to here, Mr. Coleman. Let me get 817. Is this B1 is a lifesaver?
Yes, it is. How you doing, TJ?
Oh, glad to speak to you here, brother. What's on your mind?
Oh, what's on my mind is that what my man is saying, he is absolutely right. And for some of y'all guys that's in the chat and that's calling, don't be scared to get out here and do it. Just get out here and do it. It's worth it. I promise you. Me, I've been trucking for 18 years. 12 of those years has been car hauling. And you trust me, I've seen it all, been through it all. It's the best. It's the best. And right now, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm a GM contractor. I get paid $35 an hour, empty and loaded, cross country and all. I tell brothers, I tell anybody, get your CDL. But if you can, get into car hauling. It pays.
It does. I did a little car hauling when I had a dually and a gooseneck trailer with the ramps on it, and I could put like 2 cars on there. Cars do pay. Yep.
Especially now.
You are absolutely right, my man. Because I'm seeing some dually guys. They getting paid. They getting crazy paid. I think one of the contracts, somebody told me that they just ended one of the third-party contracts for now, just for now. But these guys were getting paid like $150, $175 an hour. And I said, damn, like I said, back in 2020, I was doing my own thing. But what happened was, I lost my mom to the pandemic, and there wasn't nothing moving for hardly 2 months. So I had to go back to do the company driver thing. And that's when I found out everything out here, as far as car hauling, was paying by the hour. And I said, shit, I'm set right now. I'm just trying to build my money back up.
Okay.
Maybe
back up here for a moment. Back up here for a moment. Let me hear that again. Did you say they're paying $175 to $200 an hour?
No, $150 to $175 an hour.
Okay, $150 to $175 an hour.
Like that.
Okay. I've never heard numbers like that before.
Wow.
I've never heard numbers like that. That's travel nurse. That's travel nurse money right there.
Man.
That's nurse practitioner money.
Listen, I kid you not, even I couldn't believe it myself. But when I was out here doing it, I was doing like I said, I'm getting paid $35 an hour. But it was one of the guys, I don't want to say his name too much because, he still works for the company. I don't want to say too much. But he's talking about going to this one company. They out of Colorado. Some of the people in the chat may know what I'm talking about. And they're talking, from what I'm hearing, they paying their drivers $170, $175 an hour, empty and loaded. And them guys making money hand over fist.
Wow.
Okay. That is great. Like I say, you got to get out there. You got to be in the game to play. You got to be in the game to play. So I think especially for young people, if you're a young man and everything, I think this would be a great opportunity for you, if you're serious about it. If you're serious about it. I'll let you have the last word.
B1. That's all I can say is B1. All my B1 truckers out there, B1, get your money. Get your money. Get your money. Don't play games. Get your damn money. Stay focused. Get your money.
All day. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Coleman, I'm only going to hold you here. Can I hold you here about 10 more minutes?
Yeah, we go ahead. We got the little one in the background bugging me. But yeah, we good.
Absolutely here. I want to thank you. You've been very generous about that, and we appreciate that because definitely right now, I think it's a good opportunity. Folk been sitting down for the last couple of years, and I understand that, but I think it's a good opportunity for them to learn and to take it seriously because I don't know if we're going to see this again. I don't know if we're going to see this again at some point. They're bringing over a bunch of folks who may or may not be legal, and they're giving them the run of the roads and stuff. Like I say, it used to just be in the farming industry and stuff, but now there's a lot of that going on. So I'd like to see folks get serious about taking advantage of that, with that being the situation. Let me go ahead and get Brandon. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
All right, brother. What's on your mind?
Not much. I just want to add, Mr. Coleman had, I know he said he did hot shot. I do hot shot currently. It's going pretty good. I'm trying to transition again to semi. I'm making payments on my truck now or whatever. But what do he think I should do as far as transitioning from hot shot to semi?
I got you, brother. Hot shot is cool. I had an F350, like I said, with the gooseneck and a little flatbed. But what I saw, I had a nice one. But what I saw was it was good money, but I was chasing the money. And I'm not a big guy, so I could my F350 had the 4 doors and had the big back seat. So I used to sleep in that back seat. But as you know now, man, DOT really ain't letting you do that no more.
Yeah.
And I said, if I'm going to be sleeping in my truck, I might as well get me a semi and get the big loads and sleep in my semi.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So what I did was I was still paying a note on my F350. What I did was I sold that truck to Vroom. Vroom gave me top dollar for it, paid it off. They came and picked it up. I got rid of it, and I went on and got me a semi. Yep. Because you're basically doing it all right now. You're doing your ELD. You got to do your logs, all of that. Yeah, so you might as well go ahead and take that lease, stack you up a little bit of paper. I know you're making good money with that dually. Stack you up a little bit.
I'm crazy enough. I actually don't even have a doula. I just got the 2,500.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's still making bread, you feel me? So
yeah.
But that dude, he was talking about that they'll pay you half your money up front with a factoring. He was true. My factoring company, if you want, they'll pay you half the bread up front, as soon as you get the load booked.
Really?
Which company is that?
Yeah.
TBS Factoring.
I get a lot of emails from them, but I've never opened them though. I've heard of that factoring company.
Yeah, they even for people that just getting started off, they'll pay half your insurance up front. Like, because insurance don't be cheap when you get into this.
Wow.
Okay, but do you have somebody who actually works for them?
No, I don't know nobody personally that works for them. I just called them up like a regular person, and they did.
I'd like to see somebody who actually works for them and can confirm that. So I'm not going to dispute you, because I cannot dispute you. What I am going to say is that when I hear things like that, I'm asking the same question Mr. Coleman did, but I'm just like, okay, my question becomes, can I find somebody who actually has worked there or works for them and can confirm, yeah, this is what they're doing for me, and this is what they're allowing me to do, as opposed to, well, there's an email, there's a business card, there's a late night infomercial. So I would really like to find somebody who's actually like, hey, I'm getting paid, here's my invoice or whatever, and actually getting that. So if I can get that, then I'll be happy to start accepting that as a possibility. Because all I've heard so far is folks are saying those things. But for me, and I'm not disputing you, because I can't dispute you. But what I am saying is, so far, I'm in the same boat with you. I don't actually know anybody I can name who will say that they say that I work for them or I'm getting loads for them under those conditions.
Well, they're not like a broker. They just handle the money part.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't see anybody who's saying they're getting it under those conditions.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jason.
If I can see it, I certainly would like to. I would certainly love to know that, because I like that opens up an avenue. I'm perfectly fine with that. I would just like to confirm it first before I go off and tell people, hey, this is something you can realistically expect.
And how much of a percentage are they taking?
They take 4%. So really? I'm trying to, get up to a point where I'm just not using them really like that. But 4% for me ain't too bad when I get the money the next day.
And you say they pay. Now, how much of your insurance did you say they pay?
Well, they'll pay half of it up front, like your down payment, like, because, you got to, put the down payment, get your insurance started. They'll pay half of that. And then, they just take it out of your settlements.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. I'm about to say they're just paying it, but you got to reimburse them.
That just gets you started, because it ain't cheap to get started.
Yeah, it's not. Yep. And you got that 30-day window from when you first getting started to when your insurance kick in. A lot of brokers won't give you loads unless you've had your DOT or MC authority for like 6 months, 9 months. So they can wait you out the game if you ain't got no money and you ain't ready for it. So I understand that.
Okay, like I said, I knew there was a catch in there somewhere for us. Like I say, is it a huge one? Not necessarily, but it's good to know that. It's good to know that. So certainly, if it works and they're really doing that, then hey, that might be an option you want to take advantage of. How long you been driving Hot Shot now?
I've been doing it for 4 months. Before this, I used to drive semi trucks and actually train other drivers how to drive.
Okay, what states you been running?
When I was doing semi trucks, but now doing the Hot Shot.
No, Hot Shot.
I normally just stay in the southeast. I go as far west. I'm from Georgia. I go as far west as Texas.
Yeah, you gotta go to Texas.
Yeah. They got good money out that way, and I go up like Chicago, Midwest, and all that. I don't play around with New York and all that up there.
No, you ain't missing nothing. You're not missing anything. No. Well, like I say, brother, definitely I can endorse that when you're ready to get your money together and stuff and see about stepping up to the next level of it there, because there's only so much you can do at what you're doing now. If you like it, that's cool, that's great. Although I would be like, a bigger truck might, if you're gonna keep hot shotting, you might want to look at a bigger truck. But if you're going to do that, you might want to look at getting the semi if you haven't done that. You might want to look at it.
Exactly.
I'm just saying it's 2,500 because I don't know what he's hauling and stuff. I'm just
Well, I'm just hauling like building supplies. Right now I got some siding like for the side of a house, and I got some little metal rods or whatever on my truck now. But
what's your weight limit you can carry with your trailer in that truck?
Well, this right here is on the I'm doing like less than the 26,000 to make the insurance be a little bit cheaper. But the weight limit I got is like 13,000.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so I mean, what Mr. Coleman was saying was absolutely right there. I'm from Louisiana. I'm used to seeing 350s out there, some 450s. I'm used to seeing that in that regard. Hey, they ain't giving them away though. I understand that. You gotta do what you gotta do. They ain't giving them away. So I do understand that. But the only thing is when you hot shot and stuff, he said 2,500. I'm like, wow, he's pushing that thing. He's pushing that Chevy to the limit. He's pushing that Chevy to the limit. Hey, I don't blame you. Running to the wheels roll off, but 2,500.
Exactly.
He's putting it to the
test.
test.
Making money. I'm doing decent with it, to be honest with you. So it's gonna give me that semi. This is just the starting step.
Oh yeah,
get to the bigger one.
Absolutely. Then don't overextend yourself. So that's a good thing to know there. Thank you very much for checking in with us, brother. We appreciate hearing that here. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up here with Mr. Coleman. Here it's going after 9:00 our time here. But you've been very, very gracious about that. I appreciate that. This is the kind of thing I want fellas to hear about. Not just fellas, but females also. There was a female in the chat room. She asked a question. She said, what is the role that a woman would play in this if she's not in the truck? I don't know. What would you say?
What I was trying to do, because right now I'm separated from from my ex-wife going through that, but I was trying to get into the dispatcher. So if her man is driving, or if her man is not driving, if she just wants to get into the business, she don't want to drive a truck, dispatch. She can dispatch 4, 5, 6 trucks, and she can get 8, 5, 10% off each load that she booked for those drivers. And all she needs is a laptop, the load boards, and she can do her thing. Very easy business for women to get into, and you can do it from home with a laptop.
Like I say, I mean, there's something out here for everybody. There's something out here for everybody. And there's definitely folk coming here from all over the world trying to get their piece of it. So I want to see my people doing what they need to do and making sure they're getting in on theirs. So we could definitely keep you here all night for this, Mr. Coleman, but I'm not going to do that. I want to thank you for your time. You've been very generous about that. You didn't have to here, but I appreciate that, and letting everybody know, giving them the game about what you've experienced and what you've seen so they can have some reliable information going forward. I think that's real, real important to have. So I want to tell you, I thank you, and I appreciate you making out the time for us to do this here tonight. I'll let you have the last word.
Oh, yes, sir. I salute you, Mr. Black. I appreciate what you do. Been following you for years. Great information, man. And I'm here for the people. It's all good, man. If I can share some game, give out some game, or help them, I ain't got no problem doing it, because nobody really helped me, man. So I had to go out there and get it. So I ain't got no problem sharing and helping somebody else out. So it's
and that's good. The kind of thing I want to hear here, is that as each of us gets on and we get our thing going and stuff, I've always tried to be a repository of information. You know me. If you call me and ask me, I'm going to tell you what I know. And I'm going to try to get you as gamed up as I can. I can only get you to a certain point. At some point, you got to start walking on your own. But like I say, I'm definitely going to give you as much information as I can. I want all of us to do that as we learn, particularly as Black men. If we learn, help somebody else, because I think one of the biggest barrier to entry is ignorance. And by that, I mean just not knowing. They don't even know what to expect. They're going to go to CDL class and they're going to bring out, a rocket science book. And that's not what it is. So demystifying this, I think, helps so much. So folks are just mystified, just have no idea what to expect. And I think demystifying it helps so much. So Mr. Coleman, big salute to you. Big shout out. I appreciate that. I hope we can do this again soon.
Oh, yes, sir. No problem, man. Anytime. Give me a call. And real quick, one last thing before you go. My next step of what I'm doing is I'm creating a program where I can show brothers and sisters that are either re-entering into society from maybe the prison system, or that just don't want to go to a college or something like that. I'm starting a program now where we can train them, and we can get them out there on the road, or we can show them where to go, send them to the schools or whatever like that. So get them the game, because a lot of people just don't even know the information. Once you got the information, man, you can do a lot. You can do a lot. So that's my next thing, my next move that I'm doing. So
demystifying this for people is a big move there. Yes, brother, sir. We're going to do this again. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man. Take care.
Big shout out to him here. Like I say, I definitely I could hold him here all night. That's not polite to do that. So I definitely don't want to do that. I want to do this again here soon. I had a couple of other folks who were supposed to be on with me here, but they were not showing up like they were supposed to here and stuff. So look, I want to make this as easy as I can here. So if you are an owner operator and you're running at least 2 or more trucks, get at me. Send me an email at theblackauthority@yahoo.com, and let's go ahead and chop it up. And I want to have you on here. So like I said, because I want to do this again, there's a lot to cover here in that regard, but you got to meet them requirements for it. So if you are listening to me, you're an owner operator, and you definitely want to, you're interested in letting folk know about this. I want to hear about your experiences. We just demystify that for you. So send me an email at theblackauthority@yahoo.com. Put the subject line Truck Drivers Workshop. Send me an email at yahoo.com with Truck Drivers Workshop. If you get at me tonight, there's a good chance I'll see about doing this again next weekend. But if you get at me here tonight or the next day here, I don't want to stretch it out too far here, but get at me. Let me know. I want to, because the sooner I know, the sooner I can do these things. And if you are a female, there was a young lady who I had spoken to her on Twitter. And I sent her the text. I sent her the DM message to let her know, hey, I want to talk to you here for this thing. And for some strange reason, I don't see anything on Twitter for her anymore. So I don't know if she blocked me. She got mad at something I said. I don't know. But definitely here, if she's out there or whatever, hey, go ahead and give us a holler. If there's any females out there and you're owner operators, you're driving, to be totally honest with you, if you're a female and you driving, period. If you're a female truck driver, matter of fact, I just had one on the line for my other program here. Maybe she'll call up here and be bossy again. But definitely go ahead and get at us and let me know so we can go ahead and talk to you about that. I want folk to get this information. I want them to hear what it's about. So definitely email me at theblackauthority@yahoo.com with the subject line Truck Drivers Workshop. Go ahead and do that. And I want to see about scheduling for you to talk to folk, because this is the kind of grassroots, down-to-earth information and reliable stuff here. I want it from folk that they can rely on who are actually out there in it and demystify this for you. So go ahead and get at me. Let me know. Let's go ahead and get that taken care of here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the program here tonight. Like I said, I don't want to go on too long here. For everybody who called in, because I got a couple of dozen folk on the line here on Blog Talk here. We're going to do this again. We're going to do this again here. The sooner folk get at me here about this, I'd like to go ahead and do that again. So the sooner they do that, we can go ahead and do that. And I want all of y'all to be here for that. That's going to be important. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. You all are definitely inclined to join us here. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every weekend here. And if you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m. Gentrified Race War, all available on DVD and on Amazon streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com and go ahead and check that out. We're going to be doing this again here soon if y'all get at me, so go ahead and let me know. Email me at theblackauthority@yahoo.com, subject line Truck Drivers Workshop. Let's see about doing this again here soon. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.